Now, I want to show something here. It's something that was and is quite well known in my community and something I spoke about so many times. And I want to bring this to the sort of, broader public, and so everybody will be able to be aware of this. And normally you would see me look at charts this way in a candlestick formation, but this time, for the purpose of this particular video, I'm using a line chart formation. And of course, in blue you can see here the SPX, in purple it's Nvidia, and in this kind of pinkish it's Microsoft. Okay, so if you pay attention to the screen, you'll see immediately what is pretty obvious, that all three assets move in tandem. Now you gotta ask yourself, is Microsoft guiding the S&P and subsequently Nvidia? Is Nvidia guiding the S&P and subsequently Microsoft? Or is it that the SPX is such a force, and considering that all these assets are a part of, moves the vastness of the market? Now, I want to add a couple of other assets here and just kind of show the grand idea here. Let's add Tesla. How similar is Tesla? On the grand scheme of things, although Tesla is weaving and moving, but that is merely because it's unadjusted. Now when it is, you'll be able to see that it's not also different. Of course, you'll be able to identify some discrepancies between Tesla, but the overall theme of the thing here is that whenever the vastness of the market is permissive, is when these stocks are doing well. When the majority, so the vastness of the market, the indices, if you will, are not permissive, the market will drop. You can see they all drop together in the very same locations. They tend to behave in a similar way. Why? Because they are basically coupled in. Now, if we're looking at the S&P as is right now, and objectively looking at the momentum, right? If we're gonna just kind of remove all of these, so we can now just focus on the SPX, and we bring it back to candlestick formation. And if we're gonna look at what the momentum is saying right now, the momentum is hitting a ceiling. Last time we saw that sort of behavior is when we saw the momentum hit that 80 range. Of course, it does not have to be perfect. Sometimes we slip right above, sometimes it takes longer. It depends on where we are in the overall cycle. There are multiple cycles that are happening simultaneously in the market, and right now we're in the most recent one, right? That is basically moving within a particular structure that is limiting to where it can go, whether we're looking on the diagonal plane or the horizontal plane, whether we're looking at the support and resistance levels that are created by the Fibonacci retracement levels, or whether it is by the trends. There are a multitude of forces that are preventing from the price action right now continuing anywhere out of the range within it is, I would say, range bound. Something that I've mentioned on one of my videos just the other day, and I was showing off how we are now testing that very resistance that prevented us from continuing to the upside. Something that we've seen before, of course, is the price action being able to cross this diagonal level. If you want to ask yourself how old is this level, well, let me show you. If we go all the way to here around COVID high, we'll identify that it was the very same support and resistance level that played a major role. We can identify the price action was highly respective of this level throughout, and of course slightly prior to. And if we go even further down the line, you will identify that this very resistance also played a role multiple times in the past. So this is quite a significant diagonal level that we are now testing. We're now at that very same diagonal resistance. We have crossed it just slightly, so we are now moving closer to our horizontal resistance, which is 6406.7. It is not an individual level. In fact, this is a very wide range, something I spoke about in the community, of course. If you want to join, it's patreon.com/investor, where I share all my thoughts and far before I share them on YouTube. Of course, I explain and go far in depth, make extra videos, all sorts of cool stuff. But yeah, the idea here is very simple. We may see the price action go all the way to these levels, which 64.91 may as well be called 6500, simply due to how close 6500 is to that level itself, and given just a little bit of slippage on a bad good day from it, we may end up testing that 6500. But honestly, I cannot see how the market can continue at this rate, merely because we have so much bearish weight sitting on the market and just waiting to explode. And when it does, it's going to be arguably worse than what we've seen on the previous correction that we just had around February, March of 2025. In fact, those who in the community know, I expect a corrective movement on the longer scheme of things that will drop the S&P to 3,300. Yes, you heard correctly, 3,300. Yeah, that's just kind of a little something I wanted to share with you boys and girls today. There's nothing special going on today, at least for the time being. I mean, the vastness of the market is being rather boring. Tesla is testing 300, something we spoke about just yesterday. Plug is being rather boring, testing 180, 188, 197, $2. Still, we are testing these very same levels. Here you can see exactly how the market is well aware of these levels and tests them borderline perfectly, of course, and that is very normal behavior. We did predict and expect that's not going to be the only first time we're going to test $2 and that's it, it's all done for. It's going to take a little while and a couple of retests. So far so good, pretty normal. I do have a bit of an expectation to see the price action pick back up towards the $2 potentially on the very next session, or maybe even if drop to 170 and then pick up to 180, then 188, and then back to $2. Irregardless, these are the ranges we're currently moving within the framework of. So again, nothing special. I just did a breakdown and a bit of a video sort of analysis on Microsoft individually for the community. Join in, you'll be able to watch that exclusive. What else interesting is going on? Apple is just being crazy bonkers considering how just bad they've been doing in the recent years. I am so impressed by their ability to recover, which is kind of makes sense. And even if you look at the breakdown I've made myself talking about it, I'll predict that it will be allowed to go as far as 230 even potentially, closing some of these gaps that were created eventually. We spoke about this since we mentioned that the X marks the spot. You can kind of see that's 217, and I would arguably say that we can still see 225 retesting these levels before Apple breaks down within the framework of the channel and moves back down all the way to 172 within the framework of this particular channel that the market is moving within. So here you go, Apple as well. Uh, I don't want to talk about this. This is just so painful. I fucked up so bad. KTOS, predictably, just like I said, is going to reach that 60 range, 50, 60 range, and end up failing. If we spoke earlier, we said if it's going to cross that 47, we're going to test that 50 and above, and it's pretty much is done, squeezed everything out of it there, and more than getting ready to break back down, arguably. May have some more leftover momentum to test within that range above where the channel is. That's not going to be all that so weird, but eventually, sooner or later, it's going to break and lead back into that 37, 36 range, may even retest that 33, at which I was saying we still should have started picking back up all the way to 25, so we're going to have a better average. And eventually I ended up hesitating and being doubtful of the analysis and thinking I got it wrong within this vicinity, and then jumped out far too soon. just to learn that my analysis was correct and end up missing out on that movement. Of course, I tend to, if I already missed the train, tend to stay off of it, kind of see my mistakes through, even if some of them are like this. In this instance, it's very unfortunate how this mistake happened. Of course, depending on the level of the mistake. You know, I don't have to. I'm not just a crazy madman. Depends on the circumstance, of course. But in this instance, it would not make sense to try and be that little chihuahua that tries to catch the car and hits the bumper on the head. The community knows exactly what I mean, what that means. That's it, boys and girls. This is it for today. I hope to see you in the community. Hope to see you on the next one. And I hope the sound is good because I did have some sound issues in my previous videos. I think I may have not connected or done things correctly, and I hope things are now sounding fine. That's it. Hope to see you on the next one. Bye for now.